what the fuck happenings in the YouTube atheist community, and that's about it. Yeah, not much news. Really no news. So, that's the end of the video. Yeah, that's it. Really is nothing to report on. Summary of events. Holiday. Yeah, I pretty much finished talking with him because it's, yeah, there's nothing direct. I mean, he complains that, an argument, this word of undisprovability came up in a Luddite Returns video too, this complaint that somehow, if you establish the existence of something like the concept of bad, that somehow you're supposed to provide some further reductionism besides just saying I've personally experienced sensations and I'd label some of them bad. How do I reduce it any more than that? There's no way to reduce it any more than that. There's no way to give you proof. So I mean, it's not even so much that it's impossible to disprove, it's impossible to prove also, beyond the fact that I'm saying, what, you're seriously telling me that's not what happens when you have sensations that are bad? You don't understand them? It's just, boy, that was a bad sensation. I know what causes it. I'll prevent the cause from causing it. That isn't what you do. So, you can't really have a conversation about anybody who's going to go into that desperate minutia. If you use that much minutia, if you're going to be that strict in your obligations for there to be some sort of explicit truth for everything, then there's no point in having a conversation. There's no point in talking about anything, because you could always resort to minutia to blow the conversation up. So as soon as somebody, so you're the one that's setting up the impossible circumstance, the impossible demand, because whenever somebody says, whenever there's a conversation, you don't like where it's going, you're going to lose the argument, you just resort to the catch-22 of obligating somebody to prove something that can't be proven. Because, I mean, proven in some way where some better authority than a sentient being testifying, that's not good enough. Well, if that's not good enough, there's nothing going to be, there is nothing else, asshole. There's no other source of understanding. You have to feel the sensation to know it, and feeling it doesn't produce a mechanical record. I mean, even if I could give you a blueprint of the neurological arrangements that comprise the sensation, the diagram of that arrangement's not going to prove that it's bad. You still have to experience it. So, well, whatever. So, I mean, there's no point. I mean, these idiots they just don't want to live in a world where there's a real bad, because then there's a real ought, and they want to pretend that everything is something you just make up. So Anacondavod's still doing the same thing too, in the sense that he'll say I believe in some stuff. I'm not saying I'm not a nihilist, but then he's a pluralist. Then he's just saying, oh, but we can't tell whose right answer is right. Somehow we can't tell the difference between complete bullshit and something that might be consistent with facts and therefore reasonable. I mean, yeah, we can tell the difference. But, we don't need to do this Antakata-vada bullshit. We don't need to do this idiotic pretending we don't have evidence. There's all kinds of evidence of what's going on planet Earth. It's a bug planet. We're just a more bizarre variety of the same mechanism. And the only thing that makes us anything at all is the knowledge we've acquired. 50,000 years ago, we were dumb animals. And, you know, a dumb mammal isn't that much better, you know, than a bug. Anyway. So, and the punk, Logic Rolls the Dice, I don't know, he's made a bunch of gibberish videos. I mean, I'm not going to bother watching anime videos and clips from other people's videos and all that other kind of crap, so... And we've already made the arguments to him, and he just doesn't respond to any kind of direct argumentation, the direct statement. Clearly you don't have a problem finding the ought when the pain is going to happen to you. You're just claiming somehow the ought doesn't exist when it's happening to somebody else. And I'm saying that's only because you're too stupid, you're ignorant. That's it. There's only ignorance that makes you incapable of seeing somebody else's pain and then seeing the ought attached to it. It's just stupid. For you to have to feel it yourself, to be motivated to correct it, would be, only an imbecile would require that kind of evidence. That's like saying I would have to be the murder victim to understand what a murder victim is. No. I can imagine it. So again, if you can't imagine somebody else's pain, or you can't imagine their circumstances happening to you, and then simply properly answer the question, what would you do? And your answer would be, you do something about it. You wouldn't just say, it doesn't matter to them. This whole me-them argument, again, it's just so stupid. We're either all thems, which means none of our feelings matter, or we're all me's, and we all have feelings that matter. That's the only logical choices you have. And from my personal perspective, I find it ludicrous for me to define myself as a them, and to say, I really think my feelings don't matter. It doesn't matter whether I'm tortured or not. It matters. Big difference in outcomes. No doubt about it. So, who else is left? There was some other asshole, wasn't there? Oh, anti-bullshit man. Very disappointing responses. He's basically defending capitalism now, and capitalists. And he just doesn't get the simple argument, or doesn't accept it. So he's kind of just saying, well, it's the only game in town. So what? I mean, you know, I could be tested tomorrow. I'm just saying, if I was tested and given $50 billion, I wouldn't spend it. You know, you can be guaranteed that 49 billion of it wouldn't go to anything personal. It's guaranteed. Okay, no doubt. No, it's a no-brainer. So yeah, I think their standards are pitiful. And for you to compare me to these people that fell into this having of power, and to say that somehow I have failed because, what, I wasn't lucky? Well, fuck you. My story isn't finished yet, so it ain't over till it's over, they say. And in the age of perpetual records, who knows? But yeah, I just, you know, he's just doing this ragging, and then he's doing it with what I consider to be a desperately poor argument, that demonstrating that he really just doesn't even understand what the world needs, what causes the harm that exists. And it's these very institutions that are the problem, and these mechanisms are just part of that. But he doesn't seem to even understand that anyone feeding off of the money creation, quote unquote, of capital gains, of gains through market interest, have to steal that money from workers. They're stealing purchasing power. They're creating fake purchasing power. Debt, made out of bullshit. debts that'll never be repaid. Um, and they're creating competing purchasing power, which means all the prices rise, which means, we're all paying more than we should be for everything, or we're getting paid less than we should be. But that's what it has to come out of. There's no free lunch. So anyway, the fact that he would resort to that is incredibly disappointing. So, and resort to it as a defense for what? Again, some argument that somehow I'm not in attempting to work for the bigger solution, the cure, which I think is in ideas. Ideas are the cure for the human illness. He's critiquing me as not only first making the wrong choice, but somehow not being effective at doing that. And I would say effectiveness would have to be something to do with some kind of incredibility of what I have produced. And I don't think I've produced anything incredible or wrong. I think I've produced a very coherent and reasonable description of reality and a way of understanding your life which will render you harmless and maybe very productive, in the sense of stepping past this need to create need, this silly justify yourself by creating more of yourself to justify yourself kind of nonsense, out of just complete ego bullshit. Well, anyway, I think it's just obnoxious for him to critique me when he has done nothing that we have any evidence of, except give money to the very institutions that are completely very ineffectual at dealing with anything real on the human race's problem list. These aren't even band-aids. He's buying the human race aspirin at best, and then calling himself the miracle worker. There's no miracle. Okay, so that's about it. That covers everybody from this week. So again, my approach, I hope to make it different in future. I suppose there's no point in, there's no point. I mean, you're just seeing the desperation in these people's arguments. You're saying, well, these people just are not willing to be tied to a rational perspective. It's almost, Piro made some, he had his stupid room, and it was pretty much unwatchable again. A lot of political crap, who cares? Genocide in Guyana or something, who cares? Indonesia or wherever the fuck it was, who cares? I mean, stuff you're just not going to solve with conversation. Problems that are intractable, so to speak. But whatever, people can talk about it. I'm just saying I don't personally find it at all interesting. Just because there's no real solution to these problems on the table, There just isn't anything to discuss in terms of a choice. But regardless, he made some of those, just one little sentence again, just slight. He said something about the physics thing, and I'd like to talk physics, and blah blah blah, but I can't, blah blah blah. And it was just like this nothing kind of response, and you were just saying, well, look, I haven't made that difficult for you. Okay, the theory really isn't that complicated, and your obligation is just to explain how something I'm saying is not possible as a solution, and that it does not in some way not do exactly what I say it does, which is unify all force theory, all of them. Not just gravity, magnetism, and electricity, but also the nuclear forces. It's all one force, and it's gravity. Nuanced. And, And I say and he keeps using quantum, like quantum is going to be the answer to something. And we already know quantum doesn't make, the atoms inside this thing more accessible. It doesn't make the energy more accessible. We've known it's there for a long time. We've known since Einstein's E equals mc squared. I mean, unfortunately, they just didn't understand how literal a truth that is, that matter is energy. But we've had the basic idea of understanding that inside this is enough energy to, heat every building in the world for one night. Right here. Right in this piece of crap. The little photons, the little gravitons trapped, moving the speed of light inside of that junk. There's enough photons, if released in some controllable manner, to produce all the energy you need to run the human race for an entire day, right in this nothing piece of nothing. So we know it's there. It's just getting it out. It's just finding a way to do this nuclear thing, to break atoms, to release their photons, their trapped gravitons, their quantons, without having them blow up, without having them go chain reaction out of control. So it's just controlling the alchemy. And it is kind of complex, just because the real trick is that it's like making the solar system fall apart. You could make the solar system fall apart by pushing matter into just the right places to create more gravity or less gravity in just the right places. But it requires that you can't just do it randomly. You can't just throw baseballs into the solar system and have any luck. But if you throw the baseballs at just the right place, you might have some luck in releasing some energy, some planets. And that's the trick to this thing, is finding a way to do something where you're not releasing all the energy of all the atoms at once, but instead just releasing the energy of one atom at a time, that kind of thing. So I'm just saying it's there. You don't need quantum. Quantum doesn't tell you that it's there. Quantum doesn't make it accessible. What will make it accessible is understanding the force that's holding it together, and that force is a force that exists in the universe, that's holding the entire universe together. That's the trick of it. Because if you can unravel this, you might be able to unravel the entire universe. That's the trick of it. So it is a little dangerous to play with. But it's there. It's like I said, there's nothing theoretical, I don't think, that stands in the way of creating a controlled imbalance in this atomic structure that allows you to release the energy that's been trapped in here for billions of years in these atoms. These atoms are billions of years old, and the energy's been trapped for that long. And there is a way to get it back out. It got in, it can get out, so to speak. Matter was made out of energy, and matter can be returned to energy. Yeah, so that's enough said on that. So I do want to do a physics video, but I just don't, not tonight, tired. Yeah, I mean, I want to work on some more math kind of stuff too, and different things, but I just want to get this moving, and you have to do that by having some sort of coherent feedback, and I'm just not getting any of that. So we'll just see what happens. I'll have to try some different strategies and different modes of operation and see what happens. Keep poking at it. Yeah, I think I'll leave it at that. I mean, there's some, there's some personal stuff I guess I could bibble about, but I don't think I'll bother. It gets to this whole idea of what motivates you in life, and it is kind of tricky. That our psychology is so dominant, and it's like we can want to do something, to impress a girl. You know what I mean? We want to do something great, just to impress a girl. And, most of the time people do the opposite, like shoot a president or something, or do something just outrageously stupid. But, somebody could be motivated to cure cancer or something, just because they were trying to impress a girl. And that's always part of the psychology, is trying to figure out what parts of you are functioning. It's hard to separate yourself from these biases and these controlling personal ambitions, and even what we make ourselves into in terms of identifying with something as being a good, and then it becomes part of who you are, and you become defensive not because of some theoretical attack to a theoretical idea, but the attack becomes personal because you essentially adopt the idea. It's one of your children in a way, and you'll defend it as if it was a child. So, anyways, there's just that kind of stuff going through my head. I don't mean anything significant about it. It's just, it does seem like there's an awful lot of that in people. So just getting through this idea of trying to have a conversation with people, and trying to have it, again, on this level where there's some sort of agreement that we're not going to allow ourselves to be talking out of personal interest or personal bias or personal attachment. That the conversation is going to have to be free of any philosophical nepotism, cultural nepotism, some sort of attachment to an identity that has been constructed by the circumstances of your birth, or your national origin or something. We should be above that shit. So anyway, that's enough. Yeah, I think so. So I wish there was more news, but there really isn't more news because no one's making any news, and there will be some news probably. Old fans doing some this and that, so they'll probably do something interesting. But we'll see how that ball bounces. And yeah. So just I have to admit I'm kind of distracted just because the summers. It hasn't been. The weather's getting better now. It's been, I guess for the rest of the world people, I guess it's, it's been that 30, 80, heading, nice kind of temperature, warm. And so I like that, and so it's been good lately. But yeah, it's just around here. My environment's changed a lot because of circumstances, and some of it's good, some of it's bad. I'm going to have to do some more work and this kind of stuff, and that's not good in the future. But anyway, it's just very nice here. It's just been very quiet, very peaceful, and I've really enjoyed being outside. And in that sense, it's been a very, very nice summer. And so yeah, I'm a little distracted by just kind of enjoying that. I'm distracted. It's just a weird time in my life. life. Just, you know, this whole thing of just getting older and, you know, kind of cleaning up the loose ends of your life, and I just and you know, just this kind of the physics things is just such a representation of it, because it's just like, yeah, I just feel so job well done. I mean, it's like it's done. Yeah, it should be done. Um, and it's almost like these other philosophical arguments. They almost feel like I've done them. They're done. They're completed arguments. I shouldn't just have to rehash them, refry the beans in a pot or something. I just really shouldn't have to. There should be enough food value here for this to be, you know, where I've done my bit. And just, you know, obviously it doesn't seem to have worked out that way, but I have that, it's just I have that sense, you know, that this should be a done deal. And this minutia and this irrelevancy and this nonsense I'm having to argue with is just that, nonsense. I mean, I really just shouldn't have to be bothered arguing with imbeciles. Psychotics. Anyway, so yeah, that's probably enough. Alright, so till the next time, and such and so forth and whatnot. Yeah, see what happens. See what shows up on my radar. It's worth shooting at. What I feel motivated to opine on. Like I said, gotta do some writing, gotta work on that. So lots of stuff to do. I'm just not in the mood to do some stuff, so yeah, I am a little moody. I guess that's part of what it is. I'm moody. I'm just in a weird place psychologically. I'm just not as I'm not unsettled. I'm just lack focus, I guess I could say. It's like I'm sort of relaxed, even though I shouldn't be. I mean, I have this perception of everything being a little bit out of balance, and yet I seem okay with that, which usually isn't my style. So, that was all kind of rambly. So, yeah, it's too late now to tell you it's kind of rambly. I guess you noticed that. So, sorry about that. So, till next time, and such.